Welcome, everybody. I'm Santiago Neeland, and this is The Divine Within, the invisible connection with God. Today, we're going to be following up on a podcast that we had a couple of weeks ago. Derek Grimm was with me, and we talked about the different revelations. You know, it's been 5 up to this recent one. So in this podcast, we're going to start with a series, and we're going to be diving into the details of each one of them, because I think there's a lot of information that once we understand it, it really brightens everything up into what we know about our history. So today we're diving into one of the most fascinating ideas found in the Urantia revelations, that civilization itself was never meant to arise by chance alone. Across the universe, developing worlds receive guidance from celestial administrators who help early humanity building the foundations of society, cities, knowledge, governance, and spiritual understanding. According to these teachings, something very much like that once happened here on Earth, when a divine administrator arrived 500,000 years ago and established the first planetary capital. Could the ancient legends of the gods descending from heaven be distant memories of real events in our planet's past? Today we explore the story of that extraordinary beginning, its achievements, its tragedy, and the echoes that still live in our midst today. And I'm accompanied by Derek. I think he's one of the best chronologists about the history of the world as told by the Urantia book. So welcome, Derek. It's a pleasure having you here.
Absolute pleasure to be back. Thank you.
Awesome. So we have a lot of information that I think is going to shed light into a lot of the questionings. You know, we're talking right now about disclosure. We're talking about ancient times, you know, where we find evidence throughout civilization. So we're going to move, I'll let you guide us into this history. So first, we're going to talk about in this introductory segment about the divine plan for civilization. So across the universe, the growth of civilization is not meant to be a random process. It's meant to be a partnership. On evolutionary worlds, when early humanity develops the capacity for self-awareness, wisdom, and spiritual curiosity, a celestial administration arrives to help guide the next stage of progress. On Earth, that moment came roughly 500,000 years ago, when a group of extraordinary beings established the first planetary capital and began working directly with our primitive ancestors. In this segment, we'll explore how that divine mission unfolded and how these stories our ancestors told about gods who came down from heaven may actually reflect a remarkable chapter in humanity's forgotten past. So Derek, take us through this story. I'm really looking forward to it.
Okay, I just have to say to start, you actually said it pretty well already.
Okay.
No, but yeah. So this is a huge thing. We are not alone, and we were never meant to be alone. And civilization, as we evolve, is meant, as you said, I tend to term it as a co-creative effort between divinity and humanity, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's the divine plan. So we're not meant to stumble around on our own trying to figure things out by ourselves. We're supposed to have help, and we did have help. So when we evolved to the point where we became human, and that whole question of what is human and what isn't human that could be a whole podcast in itself.
Yeah.
And I actually really like talking about that as well. And I'll just say that without getting into the reads too much there, when archaeologists and anthropologists look back on the skeletal structures of us trying to figure out when it was that we were human and when we weren't by looking at the skeletons, they're never going to be able to figure it out, because the quality of humanness is mindal.
Okay.
So
This is good.
it's a quality of mind that determines when you become human or not. Okay. So basically what that quality of mind is achieving the ability to connect with spirit.
Okay.
So I guess basically you can say that when creatures become self-aware, they become primitive human beings.
Okay.
And from that point,
Which is
once
what
they
differentiates us from animals, really, is that
well,
self-awareness, right?
that's the first line, right? That's the first
Okay,
line. And that's the line that denotes what a primitive human is, right? And then from there
okay.
you grow. And then you have to, and here we're going to get into the reads a bit, but you have to, the human mind has to connect with certain spirit spiritual circuits. It has to be able to
Mhm.
connect with the ability to worship. And I'm
It
going to
has to have
forget
that
the other one,
receptivity.
wisdom,
Let's say it's a
receptivity. Yeah.
if we look at it like an electric device, a communication device, it has to be upgraded to be able to receive these frequencies
Yes.
and to be able to
That's right.
connect to these frequencies, right?
That's right.
Okay.
And it's the ability to connect with all of these fundamental frequencies along
Mhm.
with this achieved self-awareness that establishes a creature as human. And
Okay.
once that happens, the alarm bells go off. There's a little bit of a celebration in the divine administration, and they dispatch a planetary administration. And this
Okay.
doesn't happen just on Earth. This happens on every inhabited world. This is the way everything's supposed to go, and it's the way
Mhm.
everything usually does go. And so we became human 1 million years ago. The actual date is given in the Urantia book. I can't remember it exactly, but it's close enough to 1 million that we can say 1 million. Um, there's a few things that happened here on Earth that delayed the arrival of our planetary administration, but it
Mhm.
arrived 500,000 years ago.
So it's
And
a million years that we first had this
we
glimpse or
became
this
human.
beginning. We became
Yeah.
human, exactly,
We were
and then
considered human. Yeah.
we were considered human, exactly, and then
Yeah.
500 years, let's say half the distance from where we are is where
Yeah.
this administration came, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
So, I mean, we're talking about massive swaths of time here that are probably going to be difficult for a lot of people to accept.
Yeah.
I think the general consensus of how old humans are is about 70,000 years at this point.
Yeah.
So I think there's a lot of space for science to catch up to
Yeah,
actuality.
a lot of it.
Let's just
And
say that. Yeah.
let me make a side note here, and I think this is important,
Yes.
but everything is now being questioned. I think that right now
Yes.
in all the fields, I mean, new information, new technologies are really pointing to this previous, we're much older than we think. That's something that we're seeing, right?
Yeah. I think the key with any kind of, especially archaeology and anthropology, and well, archaeology, let's just say that for now, is that
Hmm.
we base our history only on stuff that we have found.
Yeah,
And that is a huge point that has to be made. There is tons of stuff out there that we have not yet found that could fundamentally change our whole picture of humanity and its history. And I think it's
definitely,
still just waiting there to be found. So
definitely.
the current theories are based entirely and only and probably correctly, at least from a scientific point of view, on what we have
Hmm.
found. And
Yeah,
that's it. So we're
yeah,
kind of getting a top-down view here
yeah, yeah,
of how things
exactly.
work. So this divine administration came
Okay,
uh, 500,000 years ago, and it set up shop in the area of Mesopotamia.
okay,
And a what basically they're supposed to do is establish a city. Okay.
okay,
So with this divine administration, obviously there's the chief administrator. He's referred to in the Urantia book as a planetary prince, and
okay.
he has a first associate. And there's a huge host of celestial beings, all different kinds of orders of angels and other kinds of celestial beings that come and be part of this administration. And a lot of them are still here to, obviously, we can't see them, right? But there's a
Yeah,
lot going on. Um, but there is also a group of beings that are visible. And those
Okay.
are the beings that show up in our legends.
Okay.
And we refer to them, at least in the Sumerian, because those are the direct descendants of the people we're talking about. They are referred to as the Anunnaki.
Okay.
They're referred to as the 100 in the Urantia book. But
Okay.
basically, these and they're actually superhuman beings. Okay, and when I say
Okay.
superhuman beings, is they are ascendant beings, so they've already died and gone through a few levels of spiritual advancement, and they volunteer to come back. And in
Okay.
order to do that,
Not to this planet, but they're from other
no, they weren't
planets, let's
here. They
say.
weren't here. They were
Okay.
from other, obviously more advanced planets because we're a very young planet, right?
Okay.
Um, they volunteer to come back here,
As
but
to
in
this
order,
level, let's say to the physical
yes, so
realms
they
of
volunteer
yeah.
to have to become physical beings again, so that they
Okay. Got
can
it.
teach and guide um, us, basically,
Okay.
our
Got it.
ancestors, right? So
And
when I
this is important. Let me just make another point here.
yes,
And you
please,
said it at the beginning, saying that we're not alone, and there's a divine plan, and we're following God's will. And a lot of
yeah,
people, yes, it's to know Him and to become perfect like He is perfect. But we also cooperate. We have this is what is really interesting about the universe, and that what I really find satisfying, at least, and it gives me a lot of comfort, is that we can be partners with God, with not
that's
only
right,
God, but with all these entities that are around
yeah,
us
on
that
so
are
many
moving
levels,
us
yeah,
forward. Yeah, exactly. So, and it's not just saying, okay, where do I enroll? Where's the
yeah, yeah,
enrollment
exactly,
office? But it's life. Through life,
yeah,
we become more capable, like you're saying, of these receptive circuits, and
yeah,
therefore, and also as we leave our egos and we become, let's say, more evolved and whatever, and then we have to
right,
explain that later on another
yeah,
podcast maybe.
yeah,
But
yeah,
we start to be, to co-create, to co-participate with these entities. So
that's
just
right.
wanted to make that point,
It's
and
it's
please.
designed it's designed to be so much more easy than it is right now for us.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, but so
And
so these
we'll get into, obviously,
oh
like we
yeah,
talked about
yeah,
it in the last podcast about the rebellion and stuff, but
yeah. But so
yeah,
these
so
beings come back, all right? And
yeah,
these are,
so
like you're
they
saying, the
when
Anunnaki.
yeah, so when I say superhuman, it's because they had to have physical bodies made for them to inhabit so that they could engage with our ancestors who were living at the
Okay.
time, right?
Okay.
Um, Part of what made them superhuman was this ability to, well, it basically gave them immortality because um, when you're talking about advancing civilization, you can't just do it over a 10 or 20-year period. We're talking tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of years guiding a civilization higher and higher and higher
Yeah.
gradually. You're
Yeah.
helping it evolve. You're not giving it a revolution.
Yeah.
You're helping along with the evolution, right?
Exactly. Got it.
So in order to oversee this, some sort of longevity, massive longevity is required. And these bodies were special and
Yeah.
had the capacity to take advantage of what's called the fruit of the tree of life, which was
Okay.
planted in the city. So that
Okay.
came down with the administration. And it's this tree, and we all know that tree from the Adam and Eve legend, which we'll talk about another time. But this
Yeah.
tree is actually much older, and it sustained this staff of 100 for the whole time that they were here,
Got it.
which is actually a few 100,000 years.
And
So, yeah.
no, go ahead. Go ahead. I'll make this point later on.
Okay. I just also needed to mention that in order to make these bodies, they used the genetics of individuals from this planet. So they gathered a group of 100 indigenous humans that were on the planet at that time and used the DNA from each of these people to create a body for each of the 100 ascendant beings who were coming down. Okay, so that's another group that shows up in our legends, and they are, and I've only ever read this word, so I'm not sure exactly how to pronounce it, but they're referred to as the Igigi or the Igigi, and in the legends they're referred to as the junior gods, the junior Anunnaki, and so they became, their bodies at the time that the genetics were taken from them, their bodies were changed a bit so that they could also take advantage of the fruit of the tree of life. And so they became, each of them became the associates of the people that they donated their genetics to for their bodies. So
this is very
that's why
interesting.
last time I said 200.
Yeah.
So there was 100 Anunnaki, and then there was 100 associates. And they were all equally able to take advantage of this fruit of the tree of life, which would extend their life, as long as they were eating it. So
this is really good, Derek, because this really solves a lot of the the legends that we have, like you said, the myths. And we're going to mention this later, because we've also talked about how through myth, and nowadays we everything, all cultures are connected. And one of the big questions that we have is, we talked about myth and the mythical archetype, and how our mind functions in a way that we recognize these structures, these archetypes. So maybe if we have a genetic, like you just talking about, this is all about genetics. If we've genetically inherited this knowledge, this information, these clues, this archetypes throughout our human civilization, that's why it resonates so much. And when we see these codes, it really moves us, and it brings out a lot of different types of emotions and codes inside of us, right?
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I think what you're referring to is epigenetics, right? Is
Exactly.
this genetic memory that we have, that goes so far back. Yeah. So I guess what I can say about this group of 200 basically is that because they had this longevity, and because they were generally ascendant beings coming down, and they were so amazing, and they were teaching civilization to our primitive ancestors, they were viewed as gods.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
I'm sure for most of the time, at least before the rebellion, they tried to downplay that and say, no, we're not gods, because part of what they were here to do was to also start to teach religion as well. So they were obviously teaching the truth of God, and at least a small part of, the cosmos around us, and stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
The celestial
Awesome.
hierarchy. That probably changed after the rebellion, though.
Exactly.
Yeah.
This all
So that's a good place to end. Yeah.
organized plan changed in the rebellion. On the Divine Within podcast, we'll share real conversations to help you find a personal connection with God. My goal is to support your faith, growth, and journey toward discovering the divine within yourself. Join us to deepen your faith and spiritual journey.